Hi there, welcome to Senior Art Strokes. I'm Angel Mercado. Today we're going to be working on a nice scene. We haven't done one yet, I don't think, on this channel. This scene was done from a sketch, the one you see here, that I did in Indiana years ago. This scene was done in it was kind of like late summer, beautiful, quiet place. The moon was just coming out of the, through the fields and trees, and it was a beautiful full moonlight, kind of like harvest moon they called it. And that's what we're going to be doing. What I want you to pay attention here are the values. Since it's a nice scene, the values are very closely related, very few bright spots besides the moon and some highlights. The rest is going to remain pretty much very muted. In order for you to see the value, just squint your eyes, just like this. Squint your eyes, where you're going to see on these shapes. You're not going to see any more than that. And that's going to help you see if your values are good, if you need to work on something, took them up in some areas, whatever. And also, we're going to be using the kneaded eraser just to, lift some of the graphite and to create some highlights. So after you're done giving me a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that little bell. That way you'll be notified when I have more videos coming up. We'll be ready to go to the drawing board. But before, remember I have a guide there that I made for you of the basic exercises you should be doing every single day to keep your hand steady, okay? To keep your muscle memory, to keep the flow of your arm movement. These are very helpful. I do them almost every day, and you should too. Anybody who draws knows this. So make sure you get it. And if you have any ideas for any other videos, what you want me, any subject you might wanna, you are struggling with, you want me to cover, let me know in the comments. A lot of these are coming from suggestions that you have made. So now, enough said, and let's go to the drawing board. You can see a little bit better the sketch I've done. And like I was saying, I like to do this in charcoal usually because charcoal I can move pretty quick, and charcoal has it's nice and dark, and I like it. It's I feel like it's a lot. I can move a lot faster. I feel a lot more free, and compared to pencil, because pencil is just it's not quite the same. Plus here we had to worry about the sheen, this graphite has if it's applied too dark, so it's kind of challenging, and that's why I decided to do it in pencil, to challenge myself a little bit and to help you out to see how we go about this. So my very first move right now, what I need to do, I just need to add tone to the paper, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm adding a lot of graphite, and I'm going light, I'm not going dark. There's no reason to go too dark because sometimes you can ruin the paper right from the beginning, and there's no need for that. So I just take my time here. Since I'm doing it in the studio, there's no big rush. When you're outside doing it in plein air, right on site, it changes a little bit the dynamics. But here in the studio we can take our time, we can enjoy the process, and that is exactly what I'm doing right now. The only thing I'm going to have to be careful here is when I go around the moon, not to get too much graphite in it. And I'm going in only one direction. That kind of helps to bring unity to the piece too at the end. And if you notice, I'm doing all of this with the side of the pencil, not with the tip. I'm not doing it like this. I'm going with the side, because I can get very a lot broader, broad strikes, lines, and at the same time they're light, easy to erase. And here's going to be some light, darker masses here, where there are going to be some shrubs, trees growing, making it a little bit darker than the sky. And my main concern here is not to be exact like the sketch, but I want to make sure my shapes are somewhat organic in form. They're not very stylized because that's not how they are in nature. And I'm going to go across light, yeah, to make them a little bit darker so I can see them better. And as you can see, I'm still keeping the pencil pretty light. Now we're going to start running into buildings here. Here I'm kind of following the contour, the shape of the roof. And of course it's going to be darker because the moonlight is behind this building, so they're going to appear darker. It's going to be darker than the sky. It's almost like the same approach as I do in a watercolor. Just try to get everything add tone to it, and then just preserve only certain whites in certain areas, and then the rest will be all pretty much dark. This is going to be reflecting a little bit of light from the moon, so this is going to be a little bit lighter than the background. So that's how I judge my values, and of course I'm squinting all the time. When you squint, you can get rid of so much detail. It makes it pretty easy to see what we're doing, where we're at, what shapes we're creating. You see how nice and broad and wide these strokes are? Beautiful. Okay, this is going to be mostly shadow areas. And now we're going to go into the water. This boat is going to be also more like in the shadows, so it's not going to be kind of like darker. And here. I think this was like a homemade little boat, very cute. It was fun just to play around the pond or the lake. So now we look at it, see where we're at, how it compares to the sketch I have. I think it's, so far I'm doing okay, so I will proceed in making darker line marks. So I'm going to start making this darker. It's night time, you don't see them very much, so I like to draw them in different directions just to show them, there's something sort of like wild growing there. It's not like something that's been manicured or something we can see very easy. Try to create some layers here by overlapping, you see that? Because maybe some of these were a little bit farther than others. So here we have the roof of this cottage. This one also is going to be darker. Now I'm going to go over with another layer of dark tone over the sky. Since it's night sky, we want it darker than this. When you do this with graphite, when you have to get a lot of darkened graphite into the paper, one way to avoid the sheen, the shininess of the graphite is just by going light, just going layers, instead of just trying to do one solid layer of graphite. That is when you run into the danger of creating that sheen that is so bothersome when we want to try to create something dark, and then we see that sharp, that the brightness where we don't want it. And we're going to start making the sky a little bit darker as we move to the left side. So now I'm going to start going with the water. the water is going to be reflecting whatever is behind it. So if there's a dark shape like this we have here, this shape is going to translate into a darker shape in the water also. Here we have the moon. Here also behind this, behind the moon here there are these other trees and they're dark, and we're going to do the same thing here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to get the tissue and I'm going to blend some of this. Darker tone here. You know, this part is not going to get not getting any light there from anywhere, so it's going to be darker. There. The roof line from the one behind it. I'm going to darken it also. When I do this, you might not notice it, but I'm always kind of turning my pencil slightly to the left. I'm going to keep on going that way. I can keep the tip sharp. That's why the reason of doing that. Changing the grip of the pencil there to get a little more control on right on this line. So now I think I'm going to get just a piece of tissue, especially around the moon. I want to go over this kind of like what it does, graphite into the paper, and also kind of unifies everything. My main concern was not to touch the moon too much and maybe just leave a little bit of the highlight there more untouched. Now I'm going to start developing the darker areas. Try to recreate this. And I'm just going to outline it just to make it easy for me to see it. And pretty much all of this area is going to be very dark. Here was a little window, this cottage. Then you can see just a little bit of it. So I'm going to add it just to serve me as a reference. Now I'm going to start darken the darker tones where they need to be. This here is going to be a lot darker. There's also a little window here and the one in the back, so I'm going to add it on. Well, this wall is going to be darker than this building here. And we have these trees and shrubs and who knows what else in the back. So I'm going to start developing them again and try to make it uneven, not all the same. And I'll run into this other bunch of trees. I'm darkening the water here also because of the trees in the background. I want to make it darker here, also here. And you can see as we darken the shapes of the trees, how the sky all of a sudden it doesn't look as dark as it was looking earlier because of the contrast. There. The boat is going to be darker than what it is. And since this is a little bit closer to my view and it's going to be have a little more detail, I'm going to see a little bit more as if it was at the distance. So I'm being a little more careful here. And now I'm going to work on the weeds, and they're in the foreground. These are very dark. So now I'm going to start going over the darker areas again. put in a little piece of paper here, that way I'm not going to get, you know, the rest of my drawing dirty, because my hands are getting a little bit sweaty, and has a little bit of graphite in them, so I'm just kind of protecting that. Here I'm just putting a little bit of windows. Like that. Okay, so now we're going to define a little bit more this trees in the foreground. Remember, when it's dark outside, everything's kind of like blurry, you know, so we don't have to be that careful, especially with this stuff that's growing behind there. These were some kind of like, I don't know what kind of flowers, but they were kind of like light in value, and with this moon like that, they were really glowing. Here was some kind of bridge or something that went over, and I'm going to start darkening up the water again, because as you see, the water got a lot lighter. It's amazing how you start adding dark tones around, and then whatever looked dark to you, and all of a sudden start looking light. Now horizontal lines, we're going to go right over here, and of course we're going to go around, you know, the highlight from the moon, the reflection of the moon, because this is water, even though it's not fast moving water, but there's a little bit of a breeze. You're going to see a little bit of you know, wavelets just going across. And here I had to go down all the way down here to the bottom. If you enjoy sketching, you will enjoy the whole process here of what I'm doing, because it is kind of mesmerizing. It is almost can put me in a trance, really. And here I'm kind of going like, you know, sort of like circle like this, you know. I'm not going straight up and down, because I don't want too many straight lines. I want more like volume. Maybe some here in front a little bit. Okay, I'm going to get my tissue again, and I'm going to blend a little bit of this stuff. Very light. I don't want to lift too much of this. I just want to make it a little more interesting and even. Add a little bit of this to the sky. Here also, straight down. This is mostly to get rid of this little white, you know, texture that we have in the paper. That's what I'm trying to do here, accomplish. This is going to be a little bit darker. It's not going to be as bright. There. I think I'm just about ready to start using my eraser. You know, this is your baby. Until you are happy with it, that's when you stop. So I get my eraser. There we go. And now I'm going to start just here and there, just taking, for instance, the moon. I'm going to make a little bit brighter just in some areas there. And here it's going to be, the main part is going to be right about there. And we're going to create some little indications of water moving, so a little bit of kind of like little waves like in the lake. Not too many. Here we have some stones, or whatever this were here. Maybe a corner of the part of the boat is getting some light from the moon, so we're going to do that. Not all over, just here and there. Okay, so now we have come to a point where, you know, I think everything that needs to be said has been said. Once then you get to the point where, you know, you're adding things and you don't know why you're doing it, or overgoing areas, then you have no reason why you're going to. That's when it's a good time to stop. And I think I'm getting to that point right now. I'm just adding a little, you know, just a few stars. I remember there were a lot of stars out there. Maybe create some holes in the trees there, sky holes. And I hope you practice this one. It's fun. Maybe there's some people there, so we have a light coming out of that window here. Maybe these folks are visiting those folks. That's why this is so dark. Maybe next time we'll do one with in sharp. Now you know about how to go about making a nice scene, and in this instance by this beautiful lake in southern Indiana, or northern Indiana, I'm sorry.